The lights in the lower decks of Harmony 7 flickered at odd intervals. Nobody bothered to fix them properly anymore. The station's lower levels had been mostly abandoned for 2 years now, ever since the incident with the Velcrin girl. Taemin walked through the dim corridors with his toolkit, the metal floor echoing with each step. He didn't mind working alone. He actually preferred it. Most maintenance workers refused assignments to the lower decks. They whispered stories during shift changes. Tales about the cursed alien girl who lived somewhere in the abandoned medical wing. Anyone who got too close fell into comas. Some never woke up. Taemin had heard all the stories. He just didn't believe in curses. He was 26 years old and had been working on Harmony 7 for 3 years. The orbital station floated between Earth and the outer colonies, serving as a meeting place for dozens of alien species. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and places like Harmony 7 proved they could cooperate with other worlds. At least, that was what the propaganda said. Taemin reached the ventilation access panel on level 7. His tablet showed the air circulation had dropped to 30% efficiency in this section. He opened the panel and shone his flashlight inside. Dust and debris clogged the filters. This would take at least an hour to clean properly. He set down his toolkit and started working. The station hummed around him, a constant background noise he barely noticed anymore. His mind wandered as his hands moved automatically through familiar motions. He thought about his younger sister back on Earth. She had sent him a message last week, asking when he would visit. He hadn't been home in 2 years. A sound made him pause. Footsteps, light and careful, coming from deeper in the corridor. Taemin turned his head. The hallway stretched into darkness beyond his work light. Nobody should be down here. The entire section was marked as restricted. He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on his work pants. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, there was only silence and the station's hum. Then, he saw her. She stood at the edge of his light, barely visible. Her skin gave off a faint glow, pale blue like moonlight on water. She was thin, too thin, and wore a simple gray medical gown. Her hair was long and silver, and her eyes were large and dark. She looked young, maybe early 20s in human terms. But Taemin knew alien ages were hard to judge. This had to be her. The cursed girl. She stared at him without speaking. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands trembled slightly at her sides. They looked at each other across the dim hallway for several long seconds. "Hello," Taemin said. He kept his voice calm and normal. The girl took a step backward. "You should leave," she said. Her voice was quiet and had a musical quality, like wind chimes. "This section is restricted." "I'm maintenance," Taemin said. He gestured at the open panel behind him. "The ventilation system needs repair. Then repair it and go." She took another step back, moving toward the darkness. "Don't come closer to me." Taemin noticed she kept her hands away from her body, as if she was afraid to touch anything. Her luminescent skin cast strange shadows on the walls. She looked lonely. That was the first word that came to his mind. Not dangerous or cursed. Just lonely. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Lyra." "I'm Taemin." He made no move toward her. "How long have you been living down here?" 3 cycles. 3 of your years." Her dark eyes watched him carefully. "Why are you talking to me? Don't you know what I am?" "I know what people say. That you're cursed. That touching you puts people in comas." Taemin shrugged. "I don't believe in curses." Lyra's expression changed slightly, showing something like surprise. "You don't believe in what you can see?" 5 people have touched me. 3 fell into comas. 2 died. This is not a story. This is fact." "Maybe," Taemin said. "But curses aren't real. There has to be a reason. A scientific explanation." "The reason doesn't matter," Lyra said. Her voice grew softer. "The result is the same. I am dangerous. I am alone. This is how it must be." She turned to leave. Taemin surprised himself by speaking again. Wait. Taemin. Taemin. Lyra stopped but didn't turn around. There's a viewport around the corner, Taemin said. I've seen it on the station maps. Do you ever sit there? Sometimes, Lyra said. I watch the ships. I watch them leave. I'm going to be working down here for a while. The ventilation system needs a lot of repairs, maybe several nights. Taemin picked up his tools and started gathering his things. If you want company, I'll be here. I won't touch you. I'll just talk. If you want. Lyra turned her head slightly, not quite looking at him. Why would you do that? Because nobody should be alone all the time, Taemin said simply. She didn't respond. She walked away into the darkness, her glowing skin fading until she disappeared completely. Taemin finished packing his tools and completed his work on the ventilation panel. He didn't see her again that night, but when he returned the next evening, he found the viewport she had mentioned. It was a small observation window, looking out at the stars and the passing ships. He set up his work area nearby, making sure to make normal amounts of noise so she would know he was there. After an hour, she appeared. She sat on the floor about 10 meters away from him, near the viewport. She didn't speak. Neither did he. They simply existed in the same space. And somehow, that felt important. On the third night, Taemin brought an extra meal pack. He left it on the floor between them, not too close, then returned to his work. Lyra stared at it for a long time, before carefully taking it. She ate slowly, as if she had forgotten how food could taste good. The Velcrin government pays the station to keep you here, Taemin said while cleaning a filter. I access the public records. They send money every month. Yes, Lyra said. To keep me contained. To keep me away from others. Do they ever visit? Your family? Lyra was quiet for a long moment. My family believes I am dead. It is easier for them. Taemin felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice level. That's not right. It is practical, Lyra said. I was a translator. I worked in diplomatic circles. I had friends, colleagues, a life. Then one day, during a ceremony, a child was frightened. I took her hand to comfort her. She fell unconscious. She was in a coma for 4 months. Lyra's glowing skin dimmed slightly. After that, everything changed. When did it start? The curse? Nobody knows. One day, I was normal. The next day, I was this. She held up her hands, looking at them as if they belonged to someone else. The doctors ran tests. They found nothing. The curse has no source, no cause, no cure. Taemin stood up from his work and walked to a spot a safe distance from her. He sat down on the floor, his back against the wall. Through the viewport, a transport ship was departing, its engines glowing bright blue. I lost my parents when I was 19, he said. Shuttle accident. My sister was only 12. Everyone said she would be traumatized forever, that she would need years of therapy. But she didn't break. People are stronger than others think. Maybe curses are weaker than others think too. Lyra looked at him directly for the first time. I get that a lot, Taemin said. They watched the stars together. And for the first time in 3 years, Lyra felt something other than despair. She felt a tiny spark of something that might have been hope. 2 weeks passed. Taemin came to the lower decks every night after his regular shift ended. He always brought 2 meal packs now, and Lyra always appeared at the viewport. They talked about small things at first, the weather patterns on Earth, the strange foods different alien species enjoyed, the way stars looked different from various parts of the station. Slowly, carefully, Lyra began to share more about her life before. She told him about growing up on Velcris Prime, a world with 2 suns that made the sky perpetually bright. She described her work as a translator, moving between species and helping them understand each other. She had been good at it. Languages came naturally to her, and she loved the challenge of finding the right words to bridge different minds. I had a small apartment near the diplomatic quarter, she said one night. On the 14th floor. I could see the transit platforms from my window. I would drink morning tea and watch the ships arrive. Her voice grew distant. I had a friend named Kess. We would meet every 10th day and try new restaurants. She always ordered the strangest things. What happened to Kess? Taemin asked. She visited me once, after the incident. She stood outside the containment field and cried. Lyra's luminescent skin flickered dimly. She said goodbye. She never came back. I don't blame her. What could she do? Taemin felt the wrongness of it all settle deeper in his chest. He had spent the past 2 weeks researching everything he could find about Lyra's case. The medical reports were vague and incomplete. The Velcrin government had classified most of the information. What little existed in public records confirmed what Lyra had told him. 5 people had made physical contact with her. 3 fell into unexplained comas. 2 died shortly after, their bodies simply shutting down. But something bothered Taemin about the reports. They all focused on what happened, never why. Nobody seemed to be investigating the actual cause. They had simply labeled her as cursed and locked her away. Tell me exactly what happens, Taemin said. When someone touches you. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. They feel cold first, like ice spreading through their body. Then they feel nothing. They collapse. Their eyes stay open, but see nothing. She paused. The last person who touched me was a medical technician. He didn't believe the warnings. He grabbed my arm to take a blood sample. He fell instantly. His heart stopped beating after 2 minutes. They revived him, but he died 3 days later. And you feel nothing? I feel everything, Lyra said quietly. I feel their life draining away. I feel their fear, but I cannot stop it. It happens automatically. The moment skin touches skin. Taemin thought about this. What about through clothing or gloves? Clothing provides no protection. The curse travels through any material. Lyra looked at her hands again. That same expression of revulsion crossing her face. I am poison. There is no cure for poison. There is only distance. They sat in silence for a while. A mining vessel passed by the viewport, its hull scarred and ancient. Taemin watched it disappear into the dark. I don't accept that, he said finally. Lyra looked at him. Accept what? That you're just poison. That there's nothing that can be done. That you have to live alone forever. Taemin met her eyes. Someone should be trying to fix this, not just locking you away and paying money to forget about you. Many tried, Lyra said. Doctors, scientists, even spiritual healers. Nothing changed. Eventually, everyone gave up. Even me. Over the following nights, Taemin noticed small things about Lyra. How she never slept, or at least never seemed to. How she sometimes hummed very softly to herself when she thought he wasn't listening. How her skin would glow brighter when she talked about happy memories, and dim when she spoke of sad ones. He also noticed how carefully she avoided everything. She never leaned against walls. She never touched the floor with her bare feet, always keeping her medical gown between her skin and any surface. She moved through the world like a ghost, terrified of making contact with anything living. One night, Taemin brought something different. A small, portable music player. He set it on the floor and played a song. It was an old Earth melody, something his mother used to play, gentle and slow. Lyra tilted her head, listening. What is this? Music from my home. My mother loved this song. Taemin smiled at the memory. She would play it on quiet evenings. My sister and I would pretend to dance, stepping on each other's feet. It's beautiful, Lyra said. Her eyes glistened, and Taemin realized she was crying. He had never seen her cry before. Lyra, I haven't heard music in 3 years, she whispered. I forgot how it feels, how it fills the empty spaces. Something broke inside Taemin's chest. This young woman, this person who had done nothing wrong, had been denied even simple joys. No music, no touch, no warmth, just endless isolation and stars she could only watch from behind glass. "This isn't right," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "None of this is right." Lyra wiped her tears carefully with her sleeve. "Right or wrong doesn't matter. This is reality. Reality can change. Not this reality." Lyra looked at him, and her expression was filled with so much sadness that Taemin felt it like a physical weight. "You have been kind to me, Taemin. You have given me something I thought was lost forever. But kindness cannot cure a curse." "I don't believe in curses," Taemin said again, more firmly this time. "Then you are a fool," Lyra said. But there was no anger in her voice. Only resignation. The music played on. They sat together in the dim corridor, and Lyra closed her eyes to listen. For a few minutes, she could pretend she was back in her apartment on Velcris Prime, drinking morning tea and waiting for her friend Kess to arrive. But then the song ended, and reality returned. "I should go," Lyra said, standing up. "Same time tomorrow?" Taemin asked. Lyra nodded. She started to walk away, then stopped. "Yes, thank you. For the music, for the talking, for making me feel like a person again, even if just for a little while." "You are a person," Taemin said firmly. "Don't forget that." She smiled then, a sad and fragile thing, and disappeared into the darkness. That night, Taemin couldn't sleep. He lay in his small quarters and stared at the ceiling. He kept thinking about Lyra's hands, how she held them away from everything, how she moved through life, afraid of her own existence. He thought about her tears when she heard music. He thought about 3 years of complete isolation, and he made a decision. He didn't know if it was brave or stupid. Maybe both. But he knew he couldn't watch her suffer anymore. If the curse was real, there had to be a reason. If there was a reason, there had to be a solution. And if finding that solution meant taking a risk, then so be it. Humans were good at taking risks. It was what they did best. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow, he would do something that everyone said was impossible. He would touch Lyra's hand, and either they would find a way to break the curse, or he would learn firsthand why it was called a curse in the first place. But doing nothing was no longer an option. He closed his eyes and eventually slept, dreaming of music and stars and a girl who glowed like moonlight. Taemin arrived at the lower decks earlier than usual. His hands were steady as he unpacked his tools, but his heart beat faster than normal. He had thought about this all day. He had even written a message to his sister, just in case, though he hadn't sent it. No point in worrying her. Lyra appeared right on time. She had started arriving exactly when she knew he would be there. It was a small thing, but it showed trust. She sat in her usual spot by the viewport, her luminescent skin casting soft blue light on the walls. "You're quiet tonight," she said after a while. "Usually you tell me stories about the other workers or the strange things you find in the ventilation systems." Taemin set down the tool he was holding. He turned to face her. "Lyra, I need to ask you something." She looked at him. Her dark eyes were curious. "What? If someone could break the curse, would you want them to?" Lyra's expression changed. "That's a pointless question. No one can break it. But if they could, would you want them to try?" She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes. Every single day. I wish someone could break it. I dream about it. About being normal again. About touching someone without fear. About holding a friend's hand, or feeling the sun on my skin. Without terror." Her glow dimmed. "But dreams are just dreams. What if they're not?" Taemin stood up. He took a step toward her. Lyra immediately stood as well, backing away. "Something stupid, probably." Taemin took another step. "Or something that should have been done 3 years ago." "No." Lyra's voice filled with panic. "Taemin, no. Stay back." Stay away from me. I don't want to stay away from you. He kept moving forward slowly. You shouldn't have to live like this. You shouldn't have to live like this. You shouldn't have to live. You shouldn't have to live like this. You shouldn't have to live like this. And maybe if someone is willing to take the risk, we can figure out what's really happening. You'll die. Lyra pressed herself against the wall. Tears ran down her glowing face. You'll touch me and you'll die, and I'll have to watch it happen. And I can't do that again. Maybe I won't die, Taemin said gently. Maybe humans are different. That's not how it works. The curse doesn't care what species you are. Lyra was crying harder now. Please. Please don't do this. You're my only friend. You're the only person who talks to me. I don't want to kill you. Taemin stopped moving. They stood 5 meters apart. Then, let me try. Let me help you. Why? Lyra sobbed. Why would you risk your life for me? You barely know me. I'm nothing. I'm just a cursed alien girl that everyone forgot about. You're not nothing. Taemin's voice was firm. You're Lyra. You loved being a translator. You drank morning tea by your window. You had a friend named Kess. You haven't heard music in 3 years. And it made you cry when you finally did. You're a person who deserves to live, not just survive. Lyra slid down the wall, sitting on the floor, her face in her hands. Her whole body shook with sobs. 3 years of isolation, 3 years of being told she was dangerous, 3 years of being untouchable. All of it came pouring out. Taemin walked forward. He crossed the distance between them. Lyra looked up, her eyes wide with terror. Don't, she whispered. Taemin knelt down in front of her. He extended his hand, palm up. I trust you. You're insane, Lyra said. But she couldn't look away from his offered hand. It had been so long, so impossibly long, since anyone had willingly come close to her. Probably, Taemin agreed. But I'm also right. Something is wrong here, and the only way to fix it is to face it. Lyra stared at his hand. She was shaking. I don't want to hurt you. I know. If you die, I'll never forgive myself. I won't die. You don't know that. You're right. I don't. Taemin's hand remained steady, extended toward her. But I know that leaving you alone for the rest of your life isn't an option either. So we take the risk together. Lyra looked at his face. She saw no fear there, only determination and something else. Something that looked like caring, like friendship, like the opposite of loneliness. Slowly, her hand began to rise. It trembled in the air between them. She was giving him one last chance to pull away, to save himself. Taemin didn't move. Their hands touched. For a single heartbeat, nothing happened. Lyra's skin was warm and smooth. Her hand was small in his. Taemin felt a moment of relief. Then the cold came. It started in his fingers, a freezing sensation that spread up his hand like ice water in his veins. His arm went numb. Then came the fire, burning alongside the cold. 2 impossible sensations at once. Pain followed, sharp and electric, running up his arm toward his shoulder. Taemin gasped. His vision blurred. Let go! Lyra screamed. She tried to pull her hand away, but his fingers had locked around hers. Let go! Let go! Taemin wanted to let go. His brain screamed at him to release her, but his hand wouldn't obey. Dark tendrils appeared under his skin, black lines that spread like cracks in glass, moving up his forearm. The world tilted. Taemin fell to his knees, but his hand stayed locked with Lyra's. Alarms began blaring throughout the lower decks. Red emergency lights flashed. His vital signs monitor, required for all station personnel, had triggered the medical alert system. No, 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 Lyra was sobbing. She pulled with all her strength, but their hands remained joined. Please, please let go. Taemin could barely see anymore. The pain was everywhere now. spreading across his chest. His heart hammered irregularly. But through the agony, he felt something else. Something that didn't belong. It wasn't Lyra causing this. There was something else there. Something between them. He tried to speak but couldn't form words. The dark lines had reached his shoulder now, creeping toward his neck. Each centimeter they traveled brought more pain. Doors burst open down the corridor. Running footsteps. Voices. Shouting. A woman appeared, wearing a medical uniform. She had short black hair and carried an emergency kit. Behind her came 2 security officers. "Don't touch them!" The woman yelled at the security officers. She dropped to her knees beside Taemin, pulling out a scanner. His vital signs are crashing. Heartbeat erratic. Neural activity spiking and dropping. She looked at Lyra. "Can you release him?" "I can't," Lyra cried. "I'm trying. It won't let go." The doctor tried to pry their hands apart. The moment she touched Taemin's arm, a shock of energy threw her backward. She hit the floor hard, gasping. "Dr. Hae-won!" One of the security officers helped her up. Hae-won shook off his help. She stared at the joined hands, at the dark energy visible beneath Taemin's skin. This isn't normal biological reaction. This is something else. Something active. Taemin's eyes rolled back. His body began to convulse. The black lines had reached his chest now, spreading over his heart. "He's dying," Lyra whispered. "Not yet," Hae-won said grimly. She pulled out a communicator. "This is Dr. Hae-won. Medical emergency. Level 7. I need Jiho from astrophysics immediately. Tell him to bring his exotic energy scanner. I Hae-won. I Hae-won. I Hae-won. I Hae-won. He's going to die because of me," Lyra said. She looked at Taemin's face, twisted in pain, just like the others, but Hae-won was staring at Taemin with an expression of shock. Wait. He's still conscious. It was true. Despite the pain, despite the dark energy spreading through his body, Taemin's eyes were open. He was looking at Lyra. His lips moved, trying to form words. Hae-won leaned closer. What is he saying? Lyra understood. Even through her panic and guilt, she heard him. He was repeating the same word, over and over. Hold on. He's telling me to hold on, Lyra whispered. Even now, even dying, he was trying to comfort her. The black lines reached Taemin's heart and stopped. They pulsed there, writhing beneath his skin, but they didn't advance further. Minutes passed. The pain remained constant, but Taemin stayed conscious. His hand stayed locked with Lyra's. A man ran into the corridor, carrying strange equipment. What happened? Your message said. He stopped when he saw Taemin and Lyra. Oh no. Jiho, I need you to scan them, Hae-won said. Now. Jiho set up his scanner quickly, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. He pointed it at their joined hands. The device beeped and hummed. His eyes widened as he read the results. This is impossible, he breathed. What? Hae-won demanded. He should be dead. The energy signature shows a lethal amount of dimensional bleeding. But he's still fighting it. His neural patterns are resisting. I've never seen anything like this. Taemin's lips moved again. This time, everyone heard him. A ragged whisper that took all his remaining strength. Not a curse. Something else. Then his eyes closed. And he stopped moving. But his heart kept beating. And his hand stayed locked with Lyra's. As if his body refused to let go, even when his mind couldn't hold on anymore. Dr. Hae-won had converted a section of the medical bay into a quarantine zone. Taemin and Lyra remained exactly as they were, sitting on the floor with their hands locked together. They had been carefully moved. But any attempt to separate them resulted in violent energy discharges. After the third security officer was thrown across the room, everyone kept their distance. 36 hours had passed. Taemin drifted in and out of consciousness. When he was awake, he was in agony. The dark lines had spread further, reaching his neck now, visible beneath his skin like cracks in porcelain. When he was unconscious, his body trembled, and his vital signs danced on the edge of critical. Lyra hadn't moved. She sat, pressed against him, still crying, still apologizing. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She could only watch as the curse slowly killed the first person who had treated her like a friend in 3 years. HFY worked around the clock. She had pulled every specialist available on the station. Jiho had set up a complete array of scanners around them, measuring energy signatures that shouldn't exist in normal space. "It's definitely not biological," Jiho said, showing HFY his latest readings. Dark circles shadowed his eyes from lack of sleep. "The energy signature has a dimensional component. It's partially existing in our space and partially somewhere else." "A dimensional parasite?" HFY asked. "Maybe. But parasites usually have a source point. This thing is diffuse. It's wrapped around her entire body, particularly concentrated in her nervous system." Jiho pointed to a complex graph on his display. "And look at this. It's feeding on something." "Feeding on what?" "Emotional energy, specifically fear and isolation." Jiho ran his hand through his hair. "The worse she feels, the stronger it gets. And when someone touches her, it perceives a threat to its food source. It attacks." HFY looked through the observation window at Lyra. The girl was staring at Taemin's face, whispering apologies that no one could hear. She's been alone for 3 years, terrified and isolated. The perfect feeding ground. Exactly. The entity keeps her isolated to keep feeding. It's been manipulating her emotions, making her think she's dangerous. Jiho pulled up another reading. "But here's what's interesting. The human isn't dead. He's close to it. But he's not dead. And he should be. The energy levels would have killed a Velcrin in minutes. Other species would have lasted even less time." Jiho's fingers danced across his tablet. "Human neurochemistry is different. Our emotional resilience creates a frequency that disrupts the entity. It can't fully control him. But it's still killing him. Yes. But slowly. And look at this." Jiho showed her a new graph. "The entity is learning. Adapting. It's trying to match his frequency. In another day, maybe 2, it will succeed. And then he'll die like the others." HFY stared at the data. "So we have a deadline. We always had a deadline. Now we just know what it is." Inside the quarantine zone, Taemin opened his eyes. Everything hurt. His arm felt like it was being crushed and burned simultaneously. His chest was tight, each breath a struggle, but he was still alive. "Lyra," he whispered. Her eyes met his. They were red from crying. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I told you not to touch me. I told you. Not your fault." Speaking was hard. Each word cost him. "Something else. I feel it. The doctors say it's a dimensional entity, a parasite." Lyra's voice broke. "It's been with me for years, and I never knew. I thought I was cursed. I thought I was broken, but it was just feeding on me this whole time. Can they remove it? They don't know how. Every time they try to scan us, it attacks. Every time someone touches us, it lashes out." Tears ran down her glowing face. "You're going to die, and it's my fault for letting you touch me." "No." Taemin forced his free hand to move. It took all his willpower, but he managed to raise it slightly. "You didn't. Let me. I chose. Big difference. Why? Why did you choose this?" Taemin managed a weak smile. "Because nobody should be alone." Outside the quarantine zone, Jiho was showing HFY another discovery. "I've been analyzing the entity's behavior pattern. It's intelligent. Not conscious exactly, but aware. It knows we're studying it. Can we communicate with it? Maybe, but I don't think that's the answer." Jiho pulled up a new screen. Look at what happens when the human is fully unconscious versus when he's awake. Haewon studied the graphs. The entity's activity increases when he's unconscious. Right. His awareness, his willpower, it's somehow keeping the entity in check. As long as he stays conscious and fighting, the entity can't fully take control. Jiho's expression was grim. But he can't stay conscious forever. Work them. Work them. Work them. Work them. Then we need another approach. Haewon started typing rapidly. If human emotional resilience disrupts the entity, what if we amplify it? Topically, amplify it. Topically, 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 topically. How? Humans are social creatures. We draw strength from community. If one human can slow the entity, what about many humans? Jiho understood immediately. Create an emotional field. Use collective human willpower to disrupt the entity's hold. It's a theory. But we're running out of options. Within an hour, Haewon had organized something unprecedented. She called every human on the station to the medical bay. More than 200 people responded. They gathered outside the quarantine zone, pressing close to the observation windows. Station Commander Woo Jin arrived, a stern man in his 50s. Dr. Haewon, explain what you need from us. Haewon addressed the crowd. The man in there is Taemin. He's dying because he tried to help someone. The entity, attached to the Velkrin girl, feeds on isolation and fear. We believe human emotional energy can disrupt it. We need you to think about hope, about connection, about refusing to give up. A young woman stepped forward. That's it? It sounds simple, but emotion has power. Measurable, quantifiable power. Jiho has been documenting it. Haewon gestured to the physicist. Humans have a unique capacity for stubborn hope. We've survived impossible situations throughout our history by refusing to accept defeat. We need that energy now. The crowd exchanged glances. Some looked skeptical. Others looked determined. An older man spoke up. I've worked with Taemin for 2 years. He fixed my quarter's life support when it failed in the middle of the night. Didn't have to. Wasn't his sector. He just did it. The man moved closer to the window. If he's fighting in there, we fight out here. The man moved it to Cest. And he looked the window. Others murmured agreement. They began pressing closer, forming a wall of human presence outside the quarantine zone. Some held hands. Others simply stood close together. They focused on Taemin and Lyra through the glass. Jiho monitored his scanners. Something's happening. The ambient energy in the bay is changing. There's a frequency building. Jiho. 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 Inside the quarantine zone. Lyra felt it too. The air seemed warmer, less empty. What's happening? What? Taemin's eyes focused more clearly. The pain was still there, but something else was pushing back against it. Help, he whispered. They're helping. Ender. Way. Ender. The dark lines in his skin stopped spreading. They pulsed and writhed, but didn't advance further. Haewon's communicator beeped. A face appeared on the small screen. It was Soo Bin, the station's cultural liaison. Doctor, I heard what you're doing. I have contacts in the Velkrin community. People who knew Lyra before. Should I reach out to them? Yes. Haewon said immediately. Get anyone who cares about her. Friends, colleagues, anyone. Subin worked fast. Within 30 minutes, she had assembled a group of Velkrin on a video link. They appeared on screens around the quarantine zone. Faces that Lyra recognized. faces she thought she would never see again. Kess? Lyra stared at one of the screens. Her childhood friend was there. Older now, but unmistakable. Kess was crying. Lyra, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I left you. I was scared, but I never stopped thinking about you. I never blamed you for what happened. Other voices joined in. Colleagues from the diplomatic corps, old neighbors, a teacher from her youth, all of them spoke, telling her they missed her, that they wanted her back, that the curse wasn't her fault. The entity writhed visibly now, dark shadows moving beneath both Taemin's and Lyra's skin. It was being attacked from all sides, human stubbornness pushing from one direction, Velcrin love and acceptance from another. Jiho's scanners went wild. The entity is destabilizing. It's trying to defend itself. The temperature in the quarantine zone dropped suddenly. Frost formed on the walls. The entity was manifesting more fully, drawing more power to fight back. But in doing so, it became visible. Between Taemin and Lyra's joined hands, a shadow appeared. It looked like smoke made solid, writhing and twisting. It had no real shape, but somehow it gave the impression of hunger, of endless, desperate hunger. Taemin stared at it. Even through his pain, even with his mind foggy from exhaustion, he understood. This thing had fed on Lyra for years. It had kept her isolated to maintain its food source, and now it was fighting to keep them both because it was starving. The entity needed fear. It needed loneliness. And it was getting the opposite. Not giving up. Taemin forced the words out. He looked at Lyra. Don't give up. Lyra looked at the faces on the screens. At Kess, crying. At the humans standing vigil outside the glass. At Taemin, still conscious. Still fighting. Still holding her hand. For 3 years, she had believed she was a monster. For 3 years, she had fed that belief with her fear and isolation. The entity had grown fat on her despair, but she wasn't a monster. She was a victim, and victims could fight back. No, Lyra said. Her voice was soft at first, then grew stronger. No, I'm not yours anymore. I'm not alone anymore, the entity shrieked. It was a sound that existed more in their minds than in the air. A sound of rage and hunger, denied. And for the first time in 3 years, Lyra felt something that wasn't despair. She felt hope. The entity became fully visible now, no longer hiding within Lyra's body. It looked like shadow made flesh. A writhing mass of darkness suspended between Taemin and Lyra's joined hands. The temperature in the quarantine zone had dropped so much that their breath formed clouds. Ice crystals spread across the floor. It's manifesting completely, Jiho shouted, his instruments screaming with readings. It's pulling all its mass into our dimension to fight. Haewon understood the significance immediately. If it's fully manifested, it's vulnerable. Jiho, the disruptor you were building. Is it ready? It's experimental. I don't know if it will work. Jiho was already moving, running to his equipment station. And someone has to place it directly on the entity. Physical contact. I'll do it, Haewon said. Doctor. No. One of the security officers grabbed her arm. You saw what happened last time you touched them. You were thrown across the room. No. We don't have a choice. Taemin has been connected for almost 2 days. His body is failing. Look at him. Everyone looked. Taemin's face was pale. His lips blue. The dark lines had spread to his jaw now, creeping toward his brain. His eyes were open, but unfocused. He was barely conscious anymore. Taemin. Lyra shook him gently with her free hand. Stay awake. Please, stay awake. His eyes focused on her with effort. Tired, he whispered. So tired. I know. I know you're tired. But you have to hold on just a little longer. Lyra's luminescent skin flickered with emotion. Please. You saved me. Let me help save you. Outside the quarantine zone, the gathered humans pressed closer to the glass. They had been standing vigil for hours now. Many were exhausted, but none left. They knew what was at stake. One of their own was dying. Commander Wujin stepped forward. Everyone, listen to me. The doctor needs our help one more time. That thing in there feeds on fear and isolation. We give it the opposite. We give it everything humans are good at: community, stubbornness, that stupid human refusal to know when we're beaten. A ripple of grim laughter went through the crowd. So we push. Wujin continued. We think about every time humanity faced something impossible and won anyway. Every time we refused to give up. Every time we held on when any sane species would have let go. We're humans. Being unreasonably stubborn is what we do best. The energy in the room shifted. The humans focused their collective will. They thought about survival against odds, about crawling out of caves and reaching for stars, about falling down and standing back up, again and again, forever. Jiho felt it on his instruments. The frequency is building. It's stronger than before. Jiho, then Laikling. Inside the quarantine zone, the entity thrashed. It was being attacked by something it couldn't understand. Humans shouldn't be able to affect it. Their minds were simple, their emotions crude, but somehow their stubborn refusal to accept the impossible was creating a frequency that hurt. The entity lashed out. Dark tendrils extended from its mass, seeking anything to attack. One tendril stabbed toward Lyra's chest, aiming for her heart. Taemin's free hand moved. He shouldn't have had the strength. The entity had drained him almost completely. But something deep in the human spirit, that same stubborn core that had carried humanity from caves to stars, gave him one more moment of strength. He grabbed the tendril with his bare hand. The entity shrieked in his mind. It tried to flood him with killing energy. But Taemin held on. His hand smoked where he gripped the shadow flesh. His skin blistered and burned, but he didn't let go. Now, Taemin shouted, using the last of his voice. Do it now. Jiho activated the disruptor, a small device that hummed with exotic energy. He handed it to Hei-1. Place it on the entity's center mass. You'll have one shot. Hei-1 didn't hesitate. She entered the quarantine zone. The cold hit her like a physical wall. Her breath came in gasps as she moved forward. The entity saw her coming and sent another tendril whipping toward her. One of the security officers, a young man named Dong-hyun, jumped into the quarantine zone behind her. He threw himself in front of the tendril. It struck him in the chest, and he collapsed instantly. But he had bought Hei-1 3 seconds. She lunged forward and slammed the disruptor onto the entity's center mass, right between Taemin and Lyra's joined hands. The device activated. Reality screamed. The disruptor created a field that shouldn't exist in normal space. It forced the entity to exist fully, in one dimension or another. No more hiding between realities. No more feeding on one plane while existing in another. The entity had a choice. Manifest fully in this dimension, where it would be vulnerable, or retreat to its home dimension, releasing its hold on Lyra and Taemin. It chose to fight. The entity pulled all of itself into reality. The shadow mass grew larger, more solid. It was no longer just smoke and suggestion. It became almost physical, a thing of writhing darkness that filled half the quarantine zone. And in doing so, it made its fatal mistake. It's fully manifested, Jiho shouted. It's trapped in our dimension. The entity realized its error too late. It tried to retreat back between dimensions, but the disruptor held it firm. And now, fully present in reality, it was vulnerable to something it had always been protected from before: the collective human will. 200 humans stood outside the quarantine zone, thinking about hope, about connection, about the fundamental human refusal to give up on one of their own. That emotional energy, that stubborn human determination, became almost tangible. On the screens, the Velcrin community added their own energy. Love for Lyra. Guilt for abandoning her. Determination to make things right. The collective emotion of two species. Focused on one goal: break the curse. The entity began to shrink. It thrashed and fought, sending tendrils in all directions, but they passed through everything without effect. It was losing substance, losing power. Inside that maelstrom, Taemin and Lyra remained connected. Taemin's hand, the one gripping the entity's tendril, was badly burned. His other hand, locked with Lyra's, had gone numb. The dark lines had reached his face now, spreading toward his eyes. He was seconds from death, but he was still conscious, still aware, still holding on. Let go. Lyra begged him. Please, Taemin, let go of it. You've done enough. Taemin looked at her. Through the pain, through the exhaustion, through everything, he managed to smile. Not enough. Not until you're free. Lyra felt something break inside her chest. Not something bad. Something that had been trapped for too long. 3 years of isolation. 3 years of believing she was a monster. 3 years of feeding that belief to the thing that had been eating her alive from within. No more. I'm not afraid anymore, Lyra said. Her voice was clear and strong. I'm not alone anymore. You can't have me. She turned to face the entity directly, still holding Taemin's hand. Her luminescent skin began to glow brighter, brighter than it ever had before. The entity recoiled from that light. You're not a curse, Lyra said. You're just a parasite, and I'm not your food anymore. The entity's shriek was soundless but felt by everyone in the medical bay. It contracted violently, pulling back into itself. The dark lines in Taemin's skin began to retreat, crawling back down his face, his neck, his chest. Taemin gasped as feeling returned to his body. Pain flooded back in, but it was the pain of recovering nerves, not dying ones. He was alive. The entity made one last desperate attempt. It threw all its remaining power at them, trying to re-establish its hold. Dark energy exploded outward, but it met a wall of human stubbornness and Velcrin love, and it broke. The entity shattered like glass. Pieces of shadow scattered in all directions, dissolving into nothing before they hit the walls. The cold vanished instantly. The frost on the floor evaporated. For a moment, there was perfect silence. Then Taemin's hand, locked with Lyra's for almost 2 days, finally opened. They separated, both gasping. Taemin collapsed onto his back, his chest heaving. His heart stuttered, once, twice, then stopped completely. No. HFY was there instantly, starting compressions. Don't you dare die now. You just beat the impossible. You don't get to die afterward. She worked frantically. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 more compressions. Taemin's body was limp, unresponsive. Lyra crawled to his side. Without thinking, without fear for the first time in 3 years, she placed her hand on his chest. Her skin glowed softly, and she felt his heart beneath her palm. Still, silent. Come back, she whispered. Please come back. You saved me. Let me save you. Her glow intensified. Warm light spread from her hand into Taemin's chest. HFY paused in her compressions, staring. Taemin's heart beat once. Then again. Then it settled into a steady rhythm. His eyes opened. He looked up at Lyra's glowing face and smiled weakly. Did we win? Lyra laughed and cried at the same time. Yes. Yes. We won. Outside the quarantine zone, 200 humans cheered. On the screens, Velcrin voices joined in celebration. The impossible had happened. The curse was broken. 3 days later, Taemin sat in a hospital bed, recovering. His arm bore permanent scars where the entity had gripped him, crystalline patterns that glowed faintly in the dark. HFY said they were harmless, a side effect of the prolonged contact with dimensional energy. Lyra visited every day. She would sit beside his bed, and they would talk. Sometimes she held his hand, marveling at the simple act of touching someone without fear. The first time she did it, she cried for an hour. The Velcrin government issued an official apology, she told him. They're searching for others who might have similar entities attached to them. 17 cases so far. Because of what we did, they can all be saved. That's good, Taman said. His voice was still weak, but growing stronger each day. Kess wants to visit. She asked if it would be okay. Lyra's luminescent skin flickered with nervous hope. I said yes. Is that okay? I'm still learning how to have friends again. It's okay, Taman assured her. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been bothering her. Why did you do it? Really? You could have died. You almost did die, Taman thought about it. I told you before, nobody should be alone. But it's more than that. He met her eyes. Humans are good at being stubborn, at holding on when any reasonable species would let go. We don't always think about whether something is smart or safe. We think about whether it's right. And holding my hand was right? Holding your hand was the most right thing I've done in years. Taemin smiled. Besides, you were lonely. I know what that feels like. And I couldn't watch you suffer anymore. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. Thank you. For not giving up. For being unreasonably stubborn. And human. That's what we do best, Taemin said. They sat together in comfortable silence, holding hands, proof that some curses could be broken. Not with complex technology or ancient magic, but with something much simpler and much more powerful. Human stubbornness and the refusal to let go.